hypoplastic left hearts. I have it in the slides this afternoon on cardiac ECMO. But when you think about our hypoplastic left hearts with either their ASD if they're cannula before they go to the OR, or with their atrial septectomy, in essence, they all have left atrial vents in place because you're getting everything into your circuit. So you actually get really good flow because you have such good venous return. Does that answer your question?
Sorry, but is it easier still for, well, I guess, when you have the LV, the LA one, is it usually the same size? And is it, but it's connected to the same pump, right?
The left atrial vent?
You have a vent, right? So how come transiting with higher resistance doesn't it compete with that?
So you're asking about the left atrial vent. I thought you were talking about the ASD.
No, I did not.
Okay. So with the left atrial vent, but there's not as much blood in the left atrium as there is in the right atrium because the only time we only cannulate the left side of the heart is when we do a VAD. Nobody does ECMO and just put a cannula into the left atrium and then a return to the aorta. So if you're cannulated on the right side in the right atrium, you're taking off the majority of the blood supply. So there's not that much blood going to the left atrium. And then you put in a smaller cannula because that's what we do, and that's all you have to do to drain the blood. They do tend to clot, but I think that they tend to clot over time more so than up front, and that's in part because as the heart becomes more and more efficient, there's probably less blood in the left atrium because it's actually moving through and the LV is decompressing, and then the left atrial vent will clot off. Does that make sense? Other questions? Okay. So decannulation, in a way is very simple, in a way is not very simple. I just would not minimize it because it is still a surgical procedure. And we'll talk about weaning and decannulating on Wednesday. The thing I remember is just this is again a surgical procedure, so even though they're taking cannulas out as opposed to putting cannulas in, you can always have maladventures occur when you're least prepared. So making sure that you've got blood products available, whether they're at the bedside or that you just know that they're back in the blood bank ready for you. So typically what our surgeons will do, so central cannulation, they just take out the cannulas and we'll always leave the sternum open afterward because if the heart's been that sick, it's not ready to now go into a closed box. For the more peripheral cannulations, they'll pull out the cannula, do some kind of vascular repair on the site or make sure that they close the opening for the cannula, but they don't do any vascular reconstruction beyond that. Some places will go through and repair the carotid artery and reconstruct it, but that is not our standard of practice here because it doesn't look like it actually plays any significant difference in the long-term outcomes for the patients.
Are cannulations bedside or in the OR?
Depends. They can be in any place. So in the NICU and the PICU, they're generally at the bedside unless there's a reason why they're going to the OR. In the cardiac ICU, our cannulations either happen because somebody can't separate from bypass or they crump in the ICU. The ones that crump in the ICU, the majority of those we cannulate in the ICU. I would say the only ones that I can think of where we didn't electively cannulate in the cardiac ICU and sent them to the OR just for their cannulation are our cardiomyopathies that we know are slowly failing and are getting ready to have a bad put in place. And if we think they're that close to arresting, what they usually are is they're usually not even intubated. And so then they go back to the OR in order to be in the whole controlled OR environment to then be induced with anesthesia, go through all the hemodynamic changes that they're going to go through and have an ECMO circuit right beside them at the bed. But even those kids, we don't always do that with. It's just the ones that are the sickest. And in part it's because they just have more at their fingertips because especially in those kids, it's ones that they're thinking more likely that they're going to do a central cannulation on because they don't have a diagnosis and we want the biopsy. And it takes a while to cut through the sternum. And so if they feel like they can get the kid back to the OR and have more around them to keep the kid stable, to have the amount of time that they need to open the sternum and just do a single cannulation as opposed to if it's a myocarditis or cardiomyopathy being urgently admitted in the cardiac ICU, the cardiac surgeons will do a neck cannulation. It's not that they never do that. It's just a question of what do you need out of the cannulation to help you decide whether you're going deck or central. All right, very good. Okay, do you guys need to stand up and walk around for a second before we do VA and VB, or are you good?
2 minutes, 5 minutes.
2 minutes? 2 minutes, go for 2 minutes.
Sorry.